Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where our mission is to provide education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. USA Global TV and Radio connects you with experts and audiences all around the world every single day to help you succeed in business and to live a richer life. Visit us at usaglobaltv.com to learn about career and life-changing training and mentoring programs like the Listening Mentor. Subscribe to our newsletter to stay informed about our special programs and offers. Discover how you can become a guest on one of our shows or a host or producer of a USA Global TV and Radio show of your very own. That's USA Global TV and Radio, where the doctor is always in.
Hello, I'm Robert J. Moore, and I'm the founder of Next Level Coaching. I want to talk to you about some logistics of business and how business can go up and it can go down, and it's not all the same all the time. Your moods can change at the same time. Now, every week I'm going to be putting out a different segment. Some might be with some top people in the world giving you nuggets. Some might be just me talking to you, giving you wisdom on different angles, on different things, how to grow your business. And some might be just blah, just conversational piece. So I just want you to know what you're into. Now, as you see behind me, I got the Guinness World Record behind me. I got Forbes magazine behind me I'm on the wall with. I was in the Forbes Council. I got my own documentary over here on this side here. And I got a numerous amount of awards right here across. It didn't start that way though. People think, oh, it's so easy for you, Robert. It's not easy for me either. I had to climb to be here. As a matter of fact, when I get into the story, you're going to learn that Next Level Business is a brand new business that I'm showing people that they can raise to the top if they really, really want it to. I'm starting it right fresh, right from ground roots up. And I'm talking like from not even doing a website, anything. I'm growing it from down to the bottom up. And the programs I'm engaging in this are absolutely amazing. So please listen up, and hopefully you follow me through the time that we share together. And if you want to get a hold of me, that's not a problem. There'll be ways to get a hold of me. Near the end, I'll put a little screenshot up there of how to get a hold of me. It'd be a lot easier for you. But one of the main things are, how did I start off being an entrepreneur? How did I start off doing what I'm doing today, or how did I get to where I'm at today? Well, that documentary behind me will explain a lot of things. Reinventing Freedom by Robert J. Moore. It's a true story about life. What happened was, I was being raised, I seen a lot of people drinking and drugging, and there was no fights. It was just a lot of happiness. So it was almost like watching people doing something, and they're promoting it because all you see is happiness. And people are sad. People are angry. People are intimidated by different things. But at the same time, I'm looking at it, and I was an angry kid. I was like 13 years old at this time. I was very angry. I didn't know what to do. I didn't like the way things were living. I didn't like my environment I was living in with my step-parents, my stepmom, my biological father, and my brothers, because I'd always be the one getting in trouble. So what happened? My dad asked me to go downstairs and get him around the beers for the boys. They'd always give me tips every time I go up, and then I'd do that 4 or 5 times. And I'd say, well, what is so good about this stuff? And it was the Stubbies 50, Labatt 50, and OV. So I grabbed one of them and I guzzled it. I mean, it burned my throat. And then on the way up the stairs, when I had the tray, I was bringing up all the beers. On the way up the stairs, I let this great big belch out. It was like a growl. And then all of a sudden, it was like, wow, the overwhelming feeling come over me, like I was invincible or something. I could be myself. I could be somebody else I never knew I was. And it just kept going from there. my dad heard it, and he said, "Wow, that was a big belch, eh?" And he never thought nothing of it, I don't think. I think he knew, but he didn't know. He was unsure. But I've never seen anybody. My dad had a lot of people over. They were rough, tough people too. So he he had a nice bike. He had a nice bike at the time. He was an independent rider. He was not with a club or anything, but he knew a lot of them. So, anyways, I ended up running away when I was 15 years old. I didn't like the environment I was living in. I thought I could do things better on my own. No problem. Seven years straight, I was on the streets. I was an alcoholic. I was straight into the drugs afterwards. I didn't get into the drugs fully until after I had my first child. I met up with this girl named Penny. I met up with her. What a beautiful lady. She ended up having her first child when I was actually in jail. So I got to see my first jail when I was 18 years old, man. I didn't know what to do. I was in and out of jail at that time. And now here you are, the guy that's 18 years old, has a child, a drug addict, alcoholic, and what do? So then, you know what? She ends up getting pregnant again when I get out, and I end up doing more time for stupidity. So what happens is, this time I'm there when my child's born. I wasn't there the first time, but I'm there the second time. She ended up dying in my hands. A pulmonary epileptic seizure. That made my head twist. I really got negative. I really become entrenched in the drugs and alcohol. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know who to turn to. So for next, you figure, next 20 years, I was drinking, drugging, living on the streets, in and out of fights, in and out of jail. 17 years in that jail for some of the stupidest crimes ever. Some real good crimes, as they would say. It was like 42 charges, 27 jails I was in. Now, I'm only telling you this because I want you to understand that no matter how far you come, no matter how little you are, or how you compare yourself to somebody else, which you should never do in the first place, because we all have our own bottoms. No matter how low you become, there's always a way up. Always. I don't care if you're living on the streets. I don't care if you're broke. I don't care what's going on in your life. It's how you perceive it is how it works. How you sit there and look at things that are differently in the world. I remember sitting in the bush. Literally sitting in the bush, case of beer right there, rolling cigarettes I found off the street. With this, I got the rolling papers. I couldn't afford no food. I was starving, but I got a case of beer. And I got tobacco, which I'm rolling up from cigarette butts off the ground. So I'm sitting there, got about my sixth beer in, and it's just like I had an epiphany. This isn't going to do it for me. All of a sudden I seen a guy come over. He says, "Do you mind if I have a beer?" I said, "Look, just take the whole thing. I think I need to go into detox." On my way in the detox, I was getting off the bus, and I was talking to myself like I'm talking to you right now. And it was the strangest thing. I've never really told anybody this. I think I told once. I've never really told anybody this, but to be honest with you, I said some stuff out loud, and then I could hear this little girl say, "He needs help." It never clued in at that second, but when it did clue in, I turned around and I okay, well, where is she? I went up to the lady I thought she was with, and I said, "Man, where's the little girl? I wanted to thank her." And she goes, "I never had a little girl with me." And I swear to God, to this day, that little girl was with her. So I got myself in the hospital, because what happens is when you're a drug addict, alcoholic, you can't go straight into detox. You have to go in to get the okay from the doctor, because you could go into DTs and you could actually die from that if you don't come down properly off the medication. So they give me some Valium so I could properly come down slowly, and make sure I got lots of fluids going in me. And not just water either. I mean, you're drinking that some kind of silly juice and stuff like that, and some stuff that keeps you hydrated. No problem. So I did that, and then I went. It stayed 2 days there at the hospital. They gave me a taxi and went over to the detox. Now the detox said to me, "This is your 48th time here this year," and it was only July, and you're only allowed to stay for a certain period of time, a couple of days at a time, just enough to get yourself going again, get yourself some rest and some food and nutrients in your body, and then you have to leave again unless you have special permission. At this point in time, I was fed up. I had enough. I don't know what it was. I just had enough. And the counselor looked at me and says, "What makes you want to get the help this time? What makes you want to be here this time?" I said, "This time is different." And he said, "What do you mean it's different?" I said, "Well, I don't know how to explain it. I don't want to just get clean and sober and, feel better and go back out to where? To what? To who?" And then all of a sudden, he looked at me and says, "I have a feeling you're telling the truth. I have a feeling that this is the time." He says, "Because if you can't explain it, that's a good feeling." I said, I don't know how to explain it. I don't even know what you're talking about, basically. Anyways, they end up getting permission from the welfare system. If I was allowed to stay, I'd have to sign paperwork if I agreed to it for 3 months at the detox, because basically what happens is when you're going into a recovery center, it takes up to 3 months to get in there. So if I could stay at the detox for 3 months, then the welfare would pay for it so that they would have some money for me being there. And I wouldn't be allowed to leave the property or nothing like that. I'd just have to stay there. I could shower, I had all my bedding, my food, and everything else would be covered. Well, I ended up phoning all these places. I must have phoned about 25 places to get into. And they all kept saying, 28 days or, 3 months later, we can get you in. Finally, I phoned the very last one. The one I really wanted to phone at first. I was just too scared to, because I had a feeling it was going to be something good. And it was an area I wanted to be at anyways. I don't know why. Probably because my aunt was up there, my cousins were up there, and I figured they could help me through it. Even though they were drunks. They were drunks too. So here we go with this one. I'm thinking to myself, okay, I'm going to call it. They're going to tell me 2 months. I'm going to be staying here for a few more months, and I'm going to be bored. I'm just going to get fed up, and I'm going to leave. I phoned up there, and you know what they told me? "Can you be here on Tuesday and bring all your stuff? This doesn't mean you're getting in. It means we're doing an invitation to you coming here, and we'll see if you're ready to come in." Okay. I couldn't believe it. So I phoned my dad up, and my dad was about 3 hours away. I said, "Dad, can you wire me down $200 so I can get on the train or I can get on the GO bus?" He said, "I'm not giving you no money." He says, "No, every time you get money, you go out and you take off to the beer store. The beer store is only about 5 blocks away. You'd be there in a heartbeat." He drove all the way down, gave the money to one of the counselors at the detox and said, "If you give him a ticket, I will give this money to you. And if you promise me you'll get the ticket for him, give him the extra money, that's fine afterwards. But give him the ticket to get up there. I want to see him get the help." And that's the way it went down. So I went up there, and was spending 4 months in the recovery home because my anger was so bad. And it was pretty rough. It was like really, really rough. And then I started liking the area. We were going to meetings, AA meetings, NA meetings, daily, sometimes 2 times a day. I didn't have no family coming around. I actually didn't talk to my family for 2.5 years. And I'll tell you the reason why I didn't talk to my family for 2.5 years. It's because I decided on my own to not talk to family, because all I did was cry wolf. All I did was cry and tell them, "Oh, I'm going to be doing this. I'm going to be doing that. I'm going to be doing this." At the same time, what am I really doing? I'm just bullshitting. I'm part of my language. And I'm not getting anywhere. Well, I'm sorry to be the one to tell you that it was right. That's the reason why I didn't call him. And I knew that factor. I knew that was a fact all the way through. So guess what? I didn't call him for 2.5 years. 2.5 years later, I was sober. I was clean. I was actually finished off my GED. I got my high school credits, and I was just doing my social service worker diploma at Georgian College. And then I was got accepted for Lakehead University at this time for my BA in psychology. And I called my dad up and I said, "Hey, I just want to let you know I'm here." He goes, "Wow, you didn't call collect? That's the first." Years and years and years I'd call him. It would be all collect. He wouldn't like that. He knew exactly where I was if I called collect for years. Remember, I did 17 years in that jail for a lot of different jails. So I started getting my act together. I started seeing anger management. I started seeing all these counselors outside the facility I was in, still going to drug and alcohol treatment, still going in to make sure I maintain in me. And I'm going to tell you something. I didn't get all the education I have to hang on my wall. As you see, there's not on my wall right now. Why I got it was to find out who I was, why I was acting the way I was, why I was being the person I was to influence other people in a totally wrong way. What was going on with my head? What was going on with my thoughts? Why was I hanging around with these bikers? Why was I hanging around with the mafia? Like, what was I doing? What was making me want that so bad that it had to fill that void so I couldn't get out, and then had to take all this 17 years and, age 32 years old, here I am getting clean and sober. Well, it was obviously the easy way out, but actually it was the hardest way. It was the hardest way. So when I finally got clean and sober, I couldn't believe it. I sometimes went 1 second at a time, praying every second. I didn't believe in God. I said, good early direction, someone said. And I said, that works for me. Good early direction works for me because I don't know what to believe in right now. So finally, when time went on and they're mentioning God this, God that, I was having resentments. And it was scary. It was scary. That's when they said good early direction. When you have something like that to go with, you can actually harness it, and you can actually keep yourself like a blanket. And you know what? I haven't seen the inside of the jails. I've seen probation. My probation officer was really kind, really nice, and she hung in with me. I kept giving her quotes from the big book. She don't buy the big book just to make sure I'm telling the truth. And she wanted to know if I was serious. I was serious. And it's kind of comical because when you sit there and tell someone, oh, go to this page here, you'll see this on it, that on it, and that's how I feel and how you relate to it. And it's like, wow, you really are reading it. And this is coming from a guy I don't read. So I did read the book, and I did do the steps that was mentioned to me. Now, it was scary because when I did go in there, there was a guy at AA meeting. He said, who's your sponsor? And I said, what does that mean? He goes, someone you talk to daily. And I said, I don't know, God or something. He goes, no. I said, I talk to all these people here daily. He says, what do you mean? Who's my sponsor? So he got a pen out off a cigarette pack there and ripped it off and then gave it to me. He says, you call me once a day now. I said, what do you mean call you once a day? He said, yeah, you check in with me once a day. He was an ex-biker. He was pretty scary looking too. And I really did feel like arguing with him because I didn't have the liquid courage behind me to actually fight this guy. I was basically surrendering at this time. I was trying to change my ways. So I started calling him. And I thought, this guy's pretty cool. He's a cool cat, man. I like him. I fit right in with him, but he's not doing the same things we used to do. He's actually in recovery about 20 years more than I have that day. Well, one of his best friends was Jules. I didn't know what he did for a profession. I figured, okay, if he's hanging with this guy, he's got to be a cool cat too. Well, I asked him to go for a coffee, and this was about 4 years in. Never knew him too well, but I knew him. I just thought he was a pretty nice guy. I sit down with him. He looks at me and goes, Robert, how come you've never asked me what I've done for a living? He goes, I know your background. He says, but how come you've never asked me about what I do for a living? I said, okay, what do you do for a living? I was drinking French vanilla. He told me he was a police officer. I almost spit that French vanilla up in his face. Seriously, I almost spit it up in his face. And it made me realize, I think, later on that night, not knowing who he was as a police officer really made me feel comfortable about being around a police officer, because so now I know that him being a police officer didn't bother me. I realized that they were just doing their job. For the first time in my life, I realized they were just doing their job. I was the one in their way. I was the one that actually going out of my way to give them work, if you say. So anyways, went from the social service worker diploma addictions degree, BA in psychology, master's in counseling psychology, harm reduction, mental health crisis, and I got all that diplomas and degrees and 2 honorary doctorate degrees afterwards. because I wanted to find out who I was. It's a lifelong journey. All right? It is a lifelong journey. Now, when I got clean and sober, it was 2005, September. It's going on. This September will be 19 years clean and sober. Amazing. And it's been the most amazing ride. I'll tell you right now, my worst days I wouldn't change for my happiest days while using. I wouldn't. So now you know where I come from, what area I was living in, and the stuff I was going through. The silly thoughts that were in my mind, the silly things I would do to be noticed, recognized, and above other people. Well, guess what? It's just as hard this side too. Because now the work really began. When I stayed sober, the work really began because I didn't want to be sober. I love booze. I love drugs. They didn't like me. To this day, I will not cave in, and I refuse to. Listen, here's the thing. If you go somewhere, if you say you go to a bar, primary purpose is going to a bar to drink. If you go to a barber's chair, primary purpose is what? To get a haircut. So here's the thing. Don't put yourself in a position where you're going to regret that position. You know, the decisions are easily made. And I also want to make sure that you guys understand another thing. There's a part that I didn't tell you yet that I've been holding off on telling you. 1992, when I did mention about my wife dying, and I had 2 children. Now, I lost the kids, lost them to her family. I was a wreck. But 2001, I lost my older brother. He overdosed. And that was scary. I lost a brother. We weren't extremely close, but the feel of it was awful. It's like, well, I can't go knocking on his door again. I can't call him again. And I missed him afterwards. I missed not even being able to talk to him and get to know him the way I probably should have, even though we were raised together. My stepbrother Reagan, 2015, overdose. Another overdose. That's 2 of them. I got the Guinness World Record, 2021. 11 days after that, my 3rd brother, Kevin, died in overdose. I didn't know what to do because a couple weeks later after that, my mom died. Now, my mom died on the day that Penny died, the exact same day, July 20th, 1992, but it wasn't 92. It was 2015 when my mom died. My grandfather also died on that day too, believe it or not. July 20th, just say July 20th. All right? 3 people died in that day, and I have a son being born on that day. I got to look at the positive. So in recovery, what I've learned is you got to break down all that negative and find out where it's coming from. Get to the core of the issue. Once you get to that core of the issue, you can actually change that negative to a positive and try and look at the bright side. Believe it or not, it's done well for me. That's how I run. I help people get right to the core. I don't bandage nothing. A lot of people said that to me. They said, you're pretty rough as a coach, but I care more about your business than I do your emotions. And the reason for that is because your emotions will get in the way of you doing the business you need to do. So I've done exceptionally well facing the fact of those days of the deaths. When my dad died, my mom died, my 3 brothers died, my cousin died, my wife died. I look at it like it's a day to achieve goals. You know, a blessing from them. Achieve a goal. Look up to them. Respect them. I know it's hard. I mean, you got to figure out something, man. You don't know what to do in them days. You can't sit there and pout about it because it's not going to get me anywhere. So I got to move forward. So I made a strategy every time that day comes by when I'm feeling a sad day. Go make a couple $1,000s. How am I going to do that? We'll put a new program out. Engage the people. Try and empower other people. Try and work with people. Try and give them solutions to a problem. And work with them. Try and really diligently work with people and try and make them feel honored and respectful. Now, just because I got all this education, now listen, here's a rookie mistake I made at the beginning. I got all this education. I could teach you a lot of stuff. Not one of it you wanted to hear. I guarantee it. Psychology's boring. Social work is not the greatest. And the way they help people, the way they do things in school, is not the way we're supposed to do it in the real world, especially the way that I was taught. I found out later on that the best way to do it is focus on me first. Focus on my ability to how I deal with things. Listen the way I talk. Listen the way I deal with things. Look at how I deal with things. And then I'm able to work with other people. Now, I've had lots of practice, a lot of practice. In the last 15 years, I've helped estimate over 200,000 people because I did large groups. I'm also being certified as I speak right now. I'm in the middle of it as Thick and Grow Rich certification for coach. That is pretty cool. I'm also being one of my coaches is one of the top coaches in the world. I've been on stages with all the top tier people in the world. Tony Robbins, E.T., all of them, you name it, man. I mean, there's so many of them you just come to your mind. I've been on, I can even phone them up. Kyle Wilson, Jim Rohn's ex-business partner, pretty cool people. Mark McCoy, the Olympic gold medalist. I've been on stages with all these people because of the fact of the way I've done things. Now, I don't sit there and throw this stuff around to make people, hey, look at me, look at me, look at me, I made it. No. You don't make it unless you go to the top with other people. You got to bring other people with you. Now, I'm going to tell you a little something fast, and we'll continue it next week afterwards. I went to the top. I was at the top with Magnetic Entrepreneur. You Google me, Robert J. Moore, and you'll sit there and see how far I've come. I've won awards after awards after awards after awards. And just when I started this business here alone in February. Now, the reason why I quit Magnetic Entrepreneur is because I was up at the top. I felt lonely. Why did I feel lonely? I forgot to bring some people with me. I got selfish, started thinking, all the money and all the stuff is going on. So I backed up the train. I sold the business. I made the best decision of my life, sell the business. And then I bought 2 franchises. One I didn't even care for. I didn't even care for it. I made a lot of money doing that, but I didn't really care for it. It wasn't me. I just needed to get away for a while. But I had to make money and still maintain things. So then I'll let that go. I sold the 2 franchises, and I started this business here in February 2024. Not very long ago. It's only a few months old. In those few months, all right, I've been classified one of the best businesses in Canada. I've been classified. I got an award right behind me to show you from, Forbes Awards. Legendary award. Legendary Coaching Award from Forbes. That's pretty cool. I've been featured in Forbes many times. USA Today, Inc., all the magazines you could think of, but never for Next Level Coaching. The reason why I call it Next Level Coaching is because I'm doing some coaching behind my scope of practice. The people I've chose to actually teach me are the next level that I want to be. So then I'm learning from them so I could teach the people that I work with how to grow where they're at. So that's why I'm calling it the next level. And you know what? I would love to work with you. You tell me how we can work together. All right? You tell me if you could fit in and if you need the extra help. I got a solution to the problem. I just need to hear what the situation is first. We can work together. Some of the programs I got going on right now blows your mind. I got a program right now. It's a year long right now. I get 10 people in. They build a program together. Everybody, all 10 of us build this program together. At the end, everything that's incorporated in that program is issued out to all those people there, all those 10 people there to get their businesses, automation, all the different things, webinars, all the different things that build your business, lead magnets, your emails that go out, automation on that one too. Everything. Well, guess what? At the end of that is when they get certified by Next Level Coaching. How cool is that? Anyways, it's Robert J. Moore, Next Level Coaching. I hope to see you next week, Wednesday at 7 p.m. I appreciate you. Cheers.